What up, comrades? We're back with Fairy Tail Volume number 25, which picks up right in the middle of the S-Class quest on Fairy Tail Island. And we start off with seeing that Juvia and, what's her face? Lillian? Are fighting off against, they ran into Urza, and Urza kicks the shit out of them. Just no bars, no mercy. We then head over to Elfman and the fairy chick. I can't remember her name is, and they ran into Mary Jane. Oh no, what are they gonna do? And finally, as we left off with Natsu, he's fighting against Gildart. So then we get a shonen anime battle between Gildart and Natsu, where Natsu refuses to give up, even though Gildart is clearly stronger than him, more powerful, has better magic, and they just go. At some point, Gildart like breaks Natsu into a bunch of like little Natsus who just keep fighting. He gets super annoyed by that, turns it back into regular Natsu. Natsu blasts him again, calls him out, and finally Gildart's like, all right, I'm going to respect you. You've earned my respects, and I'm going to unleash my like true power. I'm not going to pull punches with you anymore. And Natsu's like, holy shit. And then even like we get a fucking fantastic shot of Kana and Lucy like taking a bath or something like in some waterfalls. Like, I love this manga so much. Anyway, Natsu goes to fight Gildart, even though he's like freaking out because Gildart's magic is so strong. Like Natsu refuses to give up, and he takes a swing at Gildart and then collapses onto the ground and says, all right, I lose. And then Gildart compliments him for knowing when he's hit his limit and knowing when he says something about like it's not just important how much power you have, it's like when to know to sheathe your sword as well is also important. And so then he passes Natsu, and Natsu's like, no, I didn't beat you. And Gildart's like, I'm the person who decides what or what not. Meanwhile, Carla and Panther Lily are flying over the island because Carla's got a lot of strong feelings about the whole thing with Wendy and Mest. And so she's thinking about Mest, and Panther's thinking about Mest, and they talk about how he claims to be like a disciple of Mystigan, but Panther Lily is like, hold up, that don't make no sense. Then we see Mest, and he's like waking up from a fight, and Wendy's like apologizing, and they apparently ran into Locke and Gray and got the shit kicked out of him. And so Locke and Gray pass, and they continue forward. And then they run into Gajil and Levy, who had like the peace and quiet route. Sexy Lucy and her girl Kana, who beat Freed, and then Natsu, who's looking kind of sad upon this. And then they're like, well, I guess that's all of us. And then Elfman and the fairy lady, they roll up, and they're like, yeah, we beat Mary Jane. And I'm like, holy shit, you beat Mary Jane? That's crazy. And we find out later that they won because they distracted her by saying they were engaged to get married. And Mary Jane's like, what? And then they like hit her with like all their strongest attacks at the same time. Meanwhile, over with Mest and Wendy, Mest is like, hey, I hear there's like the founder of Fairy Tales here. We should go check it out. And Wendy's like, sure. And so they go, and then we get back to Panther Lily, and he looks like very concerned. He's like, Mest is not a member of this guild. We got to find Wendy right now. And we see Mest looking like shady as fuck. The next thing that has to happen, the next chore, is that Makarov is like drinking like a bottle of whiskey straight out of the bottle, and he's like, all right, go find the tomb of the original Fairy Tale Guildmaster. And so everyone's going, and it's like hilarity ensues because everyone has to fight like there's a ton of giant monsters here, and people are running away, and people are hiding, and Natsu's just kicking the shit out of them. And they're thinking of him, and Happy are thinking about like the solution here. And then we go back to there's like the chill tent where all the people are chilling, waiting for the thing to end, and we see Urza just wearing like an apron and nothing else for some reason. I think she's wearing like a swimsuit top. But and then Mary Jane's like, oh, or they tricked me. They said they were getting married, and that's where we find about that. And then she thinks about Elfman and the elf lady having a kid, and it's like this hideous baby, and she's like, ooh. They talk about Freed and what's that guy's name? Backlov, and Gildart, and how they all like headed back to the guild or Bixlaw. They had other things going on. Meanwhile, we see Elfman and the girl are like running, and the elf girl or the fairy girl are like running away from some monster, and then Elfman like protects her, and she gets mad because she's like, we were just joking about dating, and yada yada yada. And then they see that guy from before, the creepy guy who was just like wandering around, and like, hey, he's here, and he's like, you shouldn't be here, and it's like, you shouldn't be here, this is Fairy Tale Guild. He's like, oh no, I shouldn't be here, I gotta leave right now. And then he starts radiating dark power, and then Elfman and the girl are like, what? And then Natsu shows up out of nowhere and like shoves them to the ground as the dark power goes over them and destroys like all the trees and whatever. And then the guy's like crying, and he's like, Natsu, and Natsu's like, who the fuck are you? And then they have like a little back and forth chit chat about like he needs to go, and Natsu's not strong enough yet, and all this stuff. So Natsu goes and like hits him or throws him real hard, and he's like, I have to go. Natsu's not strong enough to defeat me yet. He can't stop me, no one can stop me. And then he starts radiating like dark energy again, and everyone has to like take off, and then the guy like disappears. And then Natsu's like, what? My scarf! It's turned black! And then Happy's like, oh, maybe because it's the scarf is given to him by Ignil, so maybe Ignil's scarf like absorbed the black magic to protect Natsu. And then we see the guy all by himself, and he's like, I'm still being rejected by this world. We then head over to Mest, and he's looking off somewhere, and he's like, hey, those guys are coming too. And then we go up to this like not spaceship, an airship, and hey, it's Altair, the bad guy, and she's with Hades, Master Hades, the master of the what's the guild called, Grimoire Hearts. And they're like, we're here to get Zeref. Zeref's on this island. You're like, what, ruh-roh? If you don't remember who Zeref is, Zeref's like the king, evil demon wizard of all time or whatever. And so that guy who wants Natsu to kill him, that's apparently Zeref. And then we get like a little, that's like the end of that, and everyone's like, dun, dun, dun. No one knows about them coming in. But then we get Natsu just talking to Elfman and the girl about like, hey, we're still going to do S-Class. We're going to go. Let's do this. And then we get like a roll call about like the bad guys we're going to fight over the next like several volumes, clearly, from this guild, from Grimoire Heart. And it's like Zancro, who's like a very crazy looking dude. There's Caprico, who's like a goat looking dude. There's Altair, obviously. There's Rusty Rose, who's like this guy with a silly mask and like a Pomodoro. And then there's Kane Hikaru, who's like a fat greasy dude. And then there's Marudi, who's probably the strongest of them all because it looks like, I think it's a girl with like these cute little winged helmet, and she's like very quiet. But we find out that's not all of them because there's like 7 of them, and it's the 7 sins or the 7 kin, and it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, there's only 6, so we're missing one. Okay. We then go to Lucy and Kana, and they're trying to figure out this grave thing, and they finally are like, oh wait, this is like a trial of the mind, so we have to use our minds and think about it. And then Lucy like puts it together because she's super smart and sexy and beautiful, and I just want to lay my head in her lap. Anyway, so we we see that Locke and Gray are chasing after, or sneakily following Levy, or sneakily following Kana and Lucy because they figure like they're stupid, but Lucy's really smart, so they can follow her. Facts. We then head over to Gajeel and Levy, and they're having like a lover's quarrel because clearly Levy has a crush on Gajeel, and Gajeel's an idiot. And so he says something like kind of rude, but she takes it like way out of proportion because she's in love with him. And then she runs off, and then 2 members of Grimoire Hearts that we haven't met yet, 2 like sub-wizards, not like the main wizards, they attack her, and then right before they're about to kill her, Gajeel shows up and saves her life, and then they have like a cute little battle. Shonen anime battle where like they're getting beat up pretty good, obviously, because it's a shonen anime. And Levy has to use like her sweet ass like thing, her words to like protect them because there's like they're using some sort of like they also have like some sort of like word magic thing, and they're like not doing very good, and Gajeel gets stabbed pretty hard and all this stuff. And finally they find out right when they're like at their low end, of course the bad guys start bragging as they find out they're from Grimoire Hearts, and Gajeel tells Levy he needs to run off and tell everybody because Grimoire Hearts is like this very evil thing. And then Levy's is like, oh, I can't leave you, and he's like, get the fuck out of here. And so she uses her like word magic to create like an iron word, and it has a heart in it. Oh. And she's like crying as she runs off because she's in love with Gajeel. Anyway, so he eats the iron, and he's like, all right, let's fucking do this. And these guys are like, Nani desu ka? So then and we finally get like this cute the cover of chapter number 212. We see Bixlaw without any of his like weird getup, and he's like a crazy looking dude. He looks like Zeph from Final Fantasy VIII. Anyway, so Levy's running, and she like trips and falls, and she's talking about, and then Juvia and Urza find her and like, what's going on? And she tells them. And then we go back to Shonen anime battle with Gajeel, and then he's like fighting these guys, and he gets stabbed again, and then he remembers like after the battle of Phantom Lords, I think it was, or maybe they were Phantom Heart. Anyway, how Makarov like came and talked to him and invited him to the guild and told him he doesn't forgive him, but if he can like help someone stay away from the darkness, he'll do it. And then Gajeel uses the power of being like a fairy tale wizard to like use his ultimate attack to fuck these dudes up like real hard. And that's when, and then Urza, Levy, and Juvia find him, and he's like crashed down on the ground, and they're like, these guys, the bad guys who already lost, are talking about the 7 kin of purgatory. And like I said, we only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only got 6 of them thus far, and so it's like, ooh, we're missing somebody. And even in the shot where it shows Altair and the rest of them standing there's like one guy in the background we haven't been introduced yet, and he's got like a little circle around him. I love manga, it's so fucking good. This guy knows how to use the medium like excellently, and they're like, oh, we gotta tell everybody about what's going on. And then Natsu's like thinking about Zeref. He doesn't know he's Zeref. And then Urza like sends off like the red flare, which cancels the event because it's like there's an emergency, the island's being attacked, and everyone's like, fuck. And so Levy like is about to carry Gajeel off, and Urza's like, you're gonna tell me everything there is to know about this stuff. And then one of the guys they beat up is like, go fuck yourself. And then she hits him real hard, and he's got like a goose egg on his head. He's like, all right, so we're here to get Zareth. And then he like, spills the beans. And they're like, oh, Zareth's been alive for 400 years. He never actually died. And then we have, remember, there's the 6 kin who are coming, and there's a kin on the island already, and then everyone's thinking about Mest. And like, wait, is he doing anything about Mest? And people start questioning his existence and whatnot. And then we go to Wendy and Mest, and Panther Lily and Carla show up, and that's when Panther Lily calls out Mest for being a liar, because there's no way Mistigan would have like an apprentice, because like logically it doesn't make any sense, and he like works his way through the logic. And we see Mest teleport over to where Wendy is, and everyone's like, no, and then he grabs Wendy and moves her out of the way of an attack, and everyone's like, Nani desu ka? And then this motherfucker starts coming out of a tree, and he is Azuma. He's the last member of the fuck, I already forgot their names. Hades Heart. What are these dumbasses called? Grimoire Heart, of Grimoire Heart. And we find out that Mest is actually an agent of the council, and then he summoned like a whole fleet of council. And if you remember from like that brief thing like 2 or 3 volumes ago, the council like wants Fairy Tail out, and they're trying to find any way to do it. So Mest was like an inside agent. He does use like mind control magic or whatever to make people think stuff that's not actually true, and he's got teleportation magic, but he wasn't doing it to like hurt anybody particularly. He just wanted to like get ahead in his station at the council, and yada yada yada. And then the Azuma guy just like steps out of the tree and blows up the boat completely, and Ness is like, the fuck? And he's like, let me start again. And then Panther Lily is like, everybody leave right now. Badass. And that's volume 25 of Fairy Tail. So excellent as usual, and go like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you guys in a couple weeks for the next volume. Okay, bye.